My man Czar make tracks like this.
What's going on, y'all? I wanted to give you my review of the Sebatron SMAC. The SMAC, which stands for Stereo Musical Audio Compressor, is a 2-channel Class A optical compressor from Sebatron. So this is the closest to a perfect compressor as far as feature-wise that I've seen on a compressor, which is one of the reasons that I purchased it. Being 2 channels, it allows you to run the compressor unlinked or have channel 1 as a master where you can control the features from channel 1 and have it control channel 2. This was a huge feature that I wanted. I was looking for a 2-channel compressor, but I didn't want to have to match both sides in order to use it as stereo, and this allows me to do it. You also have dual mono and stereo link. You've got threshold, ratio, attack, release, and your output gain. And this LED light in the middle here, what that does is it shows you when compression is taking place. When it's red, you're over the threshold, and when you're green, you're below the threshold. So that is handy for setting the threshold. I've got a few compressors that do that. The DBX 560A and the JDK V12 shows you when you're above the threshold. I find this a useful feature on compressors. Your ratio goes from 1.51 up to 10:1. And one of the most unique things about this compressor is it has some different modes that you can put it in. So you've got your normal mode here for your ratio, and you have an option to go to pump, which is going to give you a pumping effect at higher ratios. And so if you turn the ratio all the way up to 10:1, or even from around there, you can get a pumping effect, which is an interesting effect on drums. It's not something that you would want all the time, but it's interesting to have that option there. Moving down to the attack, you have the option of normal, you have tight, and you have swim. So normal, of course, would be your standard use for compression. Your tight is going to, in my opinion, make it more aggressive, a faster attack and release. And the swim gives it a longer attack and release. So the tight I like to use on rap vocals when I've got something a little more fast and aggressive. The swim I really like on singing vocals because it gives me that slower LA2A feel. So, and speaking of LA2A, a lot of times you hear opto, you think of LA2A. Though this is an optical compressor, it does not sound like an LA2A to me. This is a really clean compressor, and I like to use this when I don't want that coloring character that I get from my WA2A. So I'm going to show you an example of this on a drum loop and on some vocals. As far as my main uses for it, since I've been using it, is vocals, and I like it on acoustic guitar a lot. But this is a drum loop. We're going to, let's make sure we're set here. Okay, we've got it bypassed. We're going to have channel 1 master, stereo linked, and we're going to, let's start off in normal, and then we'll move to pump, and we'll step through these so you can see the different features here, and then we'll check it out on vocal. So here is a drum loop. So through that example on the drum loop, you can see how the swim really holds the compression with the longer attack and release times. We'll definitely check that out on a vocal, on a singing vocal, how I like to use it. And the pump, like I said, it's something that, it's not something that I would use all the time, but it is interesting to have. At least as far as for these drums, I like the tight on it the most out of all the modes, besides just the typical normal that you can dial in. But let's check this out on a vocal now. So this vocal is from an artist named Victoria that I mixed. The name of the song is If You Wanna. Use the SMAC in the mix to bring up the vocal as well as even out the vocal performance. Even though I tracked this vocal with a little bit of compression from the Moog Magnum K, we still have some uneven dynamics in it that we'll like to smooth out with the compressor. And I chose to use the SMAC on this because it's a clean compressor. I didn't want to add any more color to the vocal. I liked the tone that I had already. So this vocal is from the rough mix, and we've got a kind of a medium fast attack. I've got a slow release. We've got it set in the normal mode right now, and I've got about a 4-to-1 ratio that I'm going to back down to maybe about 3-to-1 here. Okay, so I've got the SMAC bypass, so we're going to listen to the vocal bypassed, and then we'll see what the SMAC does to this vocal.
Oh, baby, you smile, your eyes look spoke to me. No, I can't lie, you're what I want. I need you everything by my side. Oh, oh, baby, you smile, your eyes look spoke to me. No, I can't lie. You're what I want. I need you everything by my side. Oh.
Okay, so I'm going to play this one more time after I point out some of the issues that we have here. So dynamically, you can hear the vocal going up and down. So it starts off strong, then it comes down, then it goes back strong and comes down again. I like some key phrases. The very beginning here.
Oh, baby, you smile, your eyes look spoke to me.
So listen to the phrase "your eyes" and watch how it kind of dips down below the music a little bit.
Oh, baby, you smile, your eyes look spoke to me. No.
And then the next part is, let's skip ahead a little bit here. The next part is need. Listen to how need kind of comes down dynamically.
I can't lie, you're what I want. I need you everything.
So one more time, listen to that "need your everything" and just listen how the volume drops off from the stronger part or the stronger phrase that comes before it.
I can't lie, you're what I want. I need you everything by my side.
Okay, so I'm going to turn on the SMAC and let's with the settings I have here, and we're in normal, and let's listen to what it does to this vocal.
Oh, baby, you smile, your eyes look spoke to me. No, I can't lie, you're what I want. I need you everything by my side. Oh.
All right, I'm going to dig in with the threshold a little bit so we get just a little bit more compression here.
Oh, baby, you smile, your eyes
Okay, so I really love how the SMAC is handling this vocal. We're pulling down the peaks, pulling down the strong parts a little bit. We're bringing up the lower parts, and we've got a more even vocal performance now. What I want to do now is switch to the swim, and we're going to dig in with the threshold just a little bit more. And you see how we've got a longer attack and release now. It's going to react slower, kind of like an LA2A would.
Ooh, baby, you smile. Your eyes, they spoke to me. No, I can't lie. You're what I want. I need you everything by my side. Oh, ooh, baby, you smile. Your eyes, they spoke to me. No, I can't lie. You're what I want. I need you everything by my side. Oh.
Okay, so you can see how we've got a slower gain reduction going on there, and the swim is what I actually used on the final mix for this. What I'm going to do now is, lastly, I'm going to play it, and I'm going to bypass the SMAC as it's playing, so you can hear the immediate difference of what the SMAC is doing to this vocal.
Ooh, baby, you smile. Your eyes, they spoke to me. No, I can't lie. You're what I want. I need you everything by my side. Oh, ooh, baby, you smile. Your eyes, they spoke to me. No, I can't lie. You're what I want. I need you everything by my side. Oh.
Okay, so there's an example of the SMAC on a vocal and on a drum loop. I really love this compressor, and one odd thing is to point out that I noticed with it is that I'll show a picture of the back here, but I just noticed that the typical inputs and outputs on the back just didn't match up to, or just doesn't match the rest of my gear. Instead of going inputs to outputs with the male XLR and female XLR, I had to do it the other way around, which I found weird. It took me a minute to realize that once I got it hooked up to my my patch bay. So this is just a quick cell phone video to show you what I'm talking about regarding the back of the SMAC. So if I remove this cable here, you'll see it says right. Let's focus on that. Right in and out, which, you know, I'm going to say is the right channel, or channel 2 input and output. But you can see that on the end is a female XLR, which is just odd because here's my JDK EQ, and you can see that the input is a male XLR. So I think it's just the wording or the phrasing that they've used on here on the SMAC was just odd to me. Again, you know, we see the output is a female XLR, and on my other gear the output is a male XLR. Not a deal breaker, but just something that I did notice. But that was odd. On the back, I want to mention also that you do have a side chain input, so you can bring in an EQ through the side chain if you want to. That is an option. And you know, there's no internal side chain on it, which is that, and I guess I'd say maybe a mix wet dry knob is really the only two things that this compressor is really missing that you may see on a lot of other compressors, but not a deal breaker. I have those options on plenty other compressors. I'm very happy with this as far as a 2-channel stereo compressor. I'm able to compress backgrounds with it for background vocals using the stereo, and I'm also able to for a country mix that I did, I mixed the vocals, the lead vocals, through channel 1, and I was able to do the hook through channel 2 of the compressor, and that worked out really well, which is another use that I wanted to use a 2-channel compressor for, because my other compressors being 1 channel, I would either have to print them and then move that compressor to another track or another part of the song. Having 2 channels here is nice to be able to do that with. I'm keeping the same compressor going throughout the song, which has been really helpful. Or even changing the modes too. I remember with that country song, I mixed the lead vocal in normal, I mixed the lead vocal on swim, and then the hook, I did that on normal. And so you can find out more at Sebatron.com. Any questions, comments, let me know, and I'll catch y'all next time.